What happens when a young black boy, dismissed and humiliated by his racist math teacher, steps up to prove his brilliance? Rashad Tate, quiet but gifted, finds himself facing the ultimate test in front of a packed, all-white crowd, including the very man who doubted his worth. Will he crack under pressure, or rise above it all with a performance that no one will ever forget? And how will that same teacher react when Rashad's true genius finally comes to light? Stay with us as we dive into every dramatic detail. It was the first day of school at Magnolia Hills Academy, a private institution nestled in the heart of an upscale Georgia suburb. Room 204 looked like any other, except for one glaring difference. It was an all-white classroom. 12-year-old Rashad Tate stood in the doorway, clutching his backpack tightly against his chest. His deep brown eyes scanned the unfamiliar room, filled with students who all looked different from him. At the front of the class, Mr. Vernon Chase, a tall, stern man with graying hair and narrow eyes, gestured impatiently for him to step forward. Rashad's mother had transferred him from their public school in Atlanta to Magnolia Hills, hoping it would open doors for him. But from the moment he entered, Rashad felt like an outsider, a lone figure in a sea of pale faces. "Class," Mr. Chase announced flatly, "this is Rashad Tate. He'll be joining us this year. Rashad, take the seat in the back." Rashad nodded quietly and walked toward the empty desk by the window, his footsteps echoing through the silent room. As he sat down, whispers floated through the air. Probably on a scholarship. Bet he can't even afford the uniform. Why'd they even let him in? Mr. Chase didn't flinch. He didn't quiet the class. Instead, he turned his back, picked up a piece of chalk, and began writing a complex equation on the board. From the very first week, Rashad could sense it. Mr. Chase didn't like him. There were no slurs, no blatant insults, but the bias seeped through in subtle ways. When Rashad raised his hand, Mr. Chase would deliberately call on someone else. When he asked a question, the teacher sighed audibly, like he was being inconvenienced. His homework always came back with red ink and nitpicky critiques, even when Rashad was certain his answers were correct. Then came the day everything changed. They were tackling a tough unit on quadratic equations. Rashad, focused and alert, noticed an error in Mr. Chase's explanation. He raised his hand. "Yes, Rashad," Mr. Chase said, his tone clipped, irritation barely veiled. I think there might be a mistake in step 3, Rashad said cautiously. The room fell silent. Mr. Chase turned, his expression icy. "And what makes you think that?" he asked sharply. Rashad swallowed. "Well, if you divide by 2x here, it cancels out the—" "That's enough," Mr. Chase snapped. "Let's not pretend you know more than the teacher." Muffled laughter spread like wildfire across the room. Rashad felt heat rise to his cheeks. He lowered his eyes and sank into his seat, fists clenched beneath the desk. But even through the humiliation, he told himself one thing: I won't cry. I won't give him the satisfaction. If you're invested in Rashad's story and want more powerful tales like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button now. Despite the ridicule, Rashad didn't give up. Numbers had always been his sanctuary. At home, he'd spend hours working through advanced problems in his spiral notebook. Math made sense, it had rules, logic, and it never judged him. His mother, a former math teacher raising him on her own, was his biggest cheerleader. She noticed his passion early on and nurtured it carefully. "You've got something special, baby," she often told him. "Don't ever let someone make you feel small for being brilliant." One evening, as Rashad sat hunched over his homework, his mother looked up from the stove and noticed the tension in his face. "What's wrong?" she asked gently. "It's Mr. Chase," Rashad admitted. "He acts like I don't belong in his class." She dried her hands and walked over, placing a warm hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to prove anything to that man," she said firmly. "Just keep showing up, doing your best." The truth has a funny way of coming out. The following week, the school announced the annual Math Leap competition, a major district-wide contest where the best students from each school competed. It was a big deal. Medals, recognition, and respect were on the line. Mr. Chase, the faculty advisor for the team, stood at the front of the room with a clipboard. "Only the top 5 students will make the team," he said. "If you're interested, sign up after class." Rashad hesitated. He knew he had the skill, but he also knew Mr. Chase would do everything in his power to keep him off that team. Still, something inside him burned brighter than his fear. After the bell rang, he walked straight up to the desk. "I'd like to try out," Rashad said clearly. Mr. Chase raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "Are you sure about that?" "Yes," Rashad said, his voice steady. The teacher smirked. "All right, Tate. Let's see what you've got." For the next week, Rashad studied like never before, memorizing formulas, drilling problem sets, and mastering mental math. The tryout test was brutal, but Rashad moved through it with laser focus. When the results were posted 2 days later, there it was, Rashad Tate, number 1. Mr. Chase stood silently by the board, lips pursed. He couldn't deny the truth. Rashad had earned his spot. The big day arrived. The Math Leap competition was held in a massive auditorium, filled with parents, teachers, and students from across the district. Magnolia Hills faced its longtime rival, Crestview Academy. The air was thick with tension. The final round began. A single, impossible-looking equation was placed on the board. Even the judges looked puzzled. Crestview's top students stepped up one by one and failed. Now it was Rashad's turn. He stood slowly, every eye in the room watching him. His heart pounded in his ears as he walked to the front. He picked up the chalk with trembling fingers. The room fell into a heavy silence. He took a deep breath and began. Line by line, Rashad broke the problem down, his mind firing like a supercomputer. His mother's voice echoed in his head, "Don't let anyone dim your light." Finally, he placed the chalk down and stepped back. The judge leaned in, eyes scanning his work. Then he looked up and nodded. "Correct." The crowd erupted. Cheers echoed across the auditorium. Students and parents clapped wildly. But Rashad didn't look at them. His eyes were fixed on Mr. Chase, who sat frozen, mouth slightly open, stunned beyond words. Back at school, everything changed. The same classmates who once mocked him now approached him with respect. But the most unexpected moment came a few days later. After class, Mr. Chase cleared his throat. "Tate, a word." Rashad paused. "I owe you an apology," Mr. Chase said, voice low. "I underestimated you. I was wrong." Rashad met his eyes. He could have gloated. He could have said everything he'd bottled up. But instead, he simply nodded and turned to leave, his silence more powerful than words. That moment closed a chapter. Rashad's victory wasn't just about math. It was about breaking barriers and shattering assumptions. His story became a symbol of hope at Magnolia Hills, a reminder that brilliance knows no color and that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it just solves the problem. What did this story mean to you? Let us know in the comments, and if you haven't already, like and subscribe for more powerful stories just like this.